San Diego has a new advocate for human rights, but his critics say he's nothing more than a fraud.
Our investigative reporter Mitch Blocker sat down with the Ocean Beach advocate and asked him where he gets his money and whose pocket it winds up in.
Meet Phil Sinandella.
We're a grassroots organization.
The latest voice in San Diego's choir of human rights advocates.
Our goal is to help the victim advocates on the ground.
A man who claims he can only afford one suit because the rest of his money goes to his cause. He's a man who has questioned others in San Diego also fighting to end human sex trafficking, saying they're not doing enough.
We're on the right side.
You use a lot of pronouns here. You say our or we.
Yes.
It's really just you.
Well, I'm the point person, and I represent victim advocates from throughout the world.
Sinandella claims to do that work from this Ocean Beach apartment. It's not a place that would normally attract questions about how it's paid for, but money seems to be on the minds of those who question Sinandella and his organization, the National Association of Human Trafficking Victims Advocates.
I blatantly told him I don't trust you.
Marissa Ugarte has been advocating for human rights for 20 years. She turned Sinandella down when he tried partnering with her human rights nonprofit, the Bilateral Safety Corridor Coalition. She says he was only after money.
So all you're paying is his apartment and his bills and his computer and his food. He's not giving anything to anyone, not one penny.
Sinandella's credibility is also being questioned by federal and local police agents in San Diego, none of whom wanted to be named for this story. One agent told us they attended a conference hosted by Sinandella called the La Jolla Human Trafficking Accords last summer. Sinandella collected nearly $400 for each registration. The source told us there were no attendees who were true experts in the field of human trafficking, that the conference was a joke, that none of the service providers who helped with the conference ever got paid. Sinandella says none of it's true, that he's not interested in money.
Our goal is not to secure funding for me or for my association.
But how do you do your work if you don't get funding?
Well, that is a conundrum.
When the human trafficking or CSEC movement is questioned here in San Diego, that impacts all of us that are a part of this movement.
Like Ugarte, Charisma de los Reyes also works for a social justice nonprofit in San Diego. She told us Sinandella has stepped on a lot of toes by criticizing some of San Diego's most ardent human rights advocates.
He can decide if he wants to be a part of this particular movement or maybe form his own.
As for the question of how much money he raises, he says it's under $60,000 a year, but there's no way to prove it. His organization isn't a nonprofit and does not maintain any public records.
Does it pay for your apartment?
My home office, yes.
So when somebody gives you money, does it go into your personal bank account? Does it go into your business bank account? Where does it go?
That's a good question. It goes into my personal business bank account.
Is that the same bank account you would use to go buy groceries?
Yes.
So if somebody gives to your organization, how do they know that you're not going to go buy groceries with it, that you're not going to go pay your rent with it? How do they know that it's going to help human trafficking victims?
Because they know me and they know the work that I do.
Now, Sinandella does not get any federal or state funding that we could find. He did tell us that he is mostly self-funded, but admits he does get some outside money.
Is there any way to measure the impact that these guys have despite the money they take in?
You know, it's a good question. There's really not a great way to do that. You can see some of their impact just because there are, by U.S. estimates, about 18,000 people who are trafficked for either sex or for labor in the United States every single year. There is some impact as far as their helping them get out of those situations as far as housing. San Diego alone has dozens of agencies, both public and nonprofits, that help people get out of those situations.
It's pretty common. You would think the two accounts should be separate, though.
You would think so.
Yeah, not personal business.
All right.
Thank you, Mitch.